Right, we're good to go. Paddy Joe, welcome.
Keith, delighted to be here and thanks very much for having me. Great day to be Joe.
Paddy Joe, it's an honour to have you here. This wasn't something that we planned. It was just something that happened by chance. Like a lot of things in life, we often talk about the chance meetings, the place where you hadn't planned on meeting someone and all of a sudden it happens. So when we met today, I said to Paddy Joe, how would you feel about saying a few words on this podcast? We don't even know what we're going to do yet, and talk a little bit about the Connacht final and all of that. But say a bit about the chance meeting first, Paddy Joe.
Yeah, the old people had a great saying, Keith. Nothing happens by coincidence. And if you live in the moment and live in the now, it's amazing the opportunities that can crop up. And, with the very fact that I was in June today and we are just actually to be here in this room at this moment right now is magical. And if we had planned it and arranged it and given times and all of that, it wouldn't happen. So, with the best things in life are free. And also the best things in life are the things that isn't, a stage managed or pre-prepared. In fact, the best father of the bride speech is the one off the cuff. If it's too well rehearsed, I don't know, it takes from it. There's nothing like the moment, and the impact of now is magical, I always think. And I love the now and living in the now. And there's never fear in the now, but the now is beautiful, and this moment couldn't be better, Keith.
Lovely, and well said, Paddy Joe. And when I mentioned to you about saying a few words today, I actually was surprised at your response, because I thought you might say to me, "Look, we'll leave it for another day, or we'll talk another time," because we were talking. Our conversation was about the Connacht final coming up between Galway and Roscommon on Sunday week. And you made a kind of a half a joking remark that Galway were going to take Roscommon, and you were kind of feeling me out a bit just to see what my reaction was. And I said, I think you're right, Paddy Joe. I don't think you were expecting that response.
Yeah, well, I am in the famous town of Tuam, and my God, we have come up following the Rossies a many a day up to Tuam and Pearse Stadium. And I have great respect for Galway football and the tradition it holds. And any time that we go play in Galway, I'd always be a bit weary. Galway always seem to play well again Roscommon. And I suppose the Connacht final is coming, and I suppose we go straight into that, Keith, for short and brief. I suppose, if you look at the bookies, and the bookies don't lie, Galway are very warm favourites. They're very warm favourites at the bookies. They're playing in Pearse Stadium. I think they have some of the best forwards in Ireland. Galway is Galway. They have a maroon jersey. They're playing in Pearse Stadium, and for Roscommon to come up, it's going to be it's going to take an almighty task. But we're not coming up to taste the atmosphere. I think we're coming up. I've seen every league match that we played this year, Keith. I was at all the games. And there's a couple of things about this Roscommon team that I'm very excited about. First, I don't think I've ever seen a fitter Roscommon team. We're extremely fit. That's one thing. The other thing is that for the first time ever, and I'm following Roscommon a long time, I never seen us having 5 free takers. We have 2 either side. And we have Eddie Nolan kicking the long range frees. And that's a massive plus in today's game. Like if you win the ball and if you break the tackle and go forward, and if you can win a free, it makes no difference whether it's left or right or in the centre. If you have the luxury of 5 free takers, we never had that before. We never had that in Roscommon. So I'm really coming up. Really looking for, I think it could be the game of the year. I really do. I think it could be the football match of the year. And I think it could be a great occasion. And I'm really looking forward to it. And who knows what's going to happen. But we're coming up. We're full of hope. I sent in an ad yesterday, and I loved it. Even when I had it written myself off the cuff again, like in the moment, I said in the ad, I said, the tear and ice cream is melting, the cuckoo is singing, the flags are flying, and the Rossies on tour. So, and I said, I wished Anthony and the lads were the very best of luck, and I said, we will be in Pearse Stadium to meet you when you arrive out onto the field. And even to take away the Roscommon Galway thing, I think the Connacht final is magical. I think it's a spiritual day out. It's a fantastic day, the Connacht final. All men from the town of Roscommon, and I come from the 4 Mile House, the cycle to Tuam and the cycle to Castlebar and the cycle to Pearse Stadium and the cycle to Claremorris and Charlestown and all around going to Connacht finals. And the crowds were massive in the past. I remember coming up and I remember playing Galway and Tuam, and the Saw Doctors were singing on the way in. And we had a great day, and we actually won that game, so we did. But the Connacht final is bigger than Galway and Roscommon. The occasion is bigger sometimes, I think, than the teams participating. The Connacht final is for the whole of Connacht. It's not just for the 2 teams. It's a national event, and it's a fantastic day, and especially for the immigrants. I always think of the immigrants. I always think of, the Galway lads all over the world and the Roscommon lads on Sunday when they see the 2 teams running out in the famous jerseys, the white balls going up, the sun shining, and oh God, Pearse Stadium. Like, the band and the parade and the magic moment, standing to attention, the national anthem. Oh, I love that moment. And the Galway fella beside you is lovely to you. Before the ball is thrown in, he'll share sweets with you, and he'll nearly talk about, he'll name 2 or 3 players in your team, and he'll tell you they're great lads. But the minute the ball is thrown in, a different ball game. And that's all part of the Connacht final, all part of it. And I love the jams. I hope we jam the roads. I love traffic jams, following the Rossies. I love the excitement. I love the buzz, the childlike excitement. And I have never lost that. I wouldn't be able to sleep for 2 or 3 nights before the Connacht final. When we'd be in it, or any big match. Just I love the GA. I love our county. And I love watching Galway football. I followed Galway football all my life. Like, they're one of the cleanest teams in Ireland. Galway always plays the ball and they never play the man. And they have fantastic footballers, But I think May 29, I think when the Rossies run out, this is a different Roscommon team. This Roscommon team has won in Croke Park. This Roscommon team has won in Hyde Park. We went up and we beat Meath and Navan and beat them very well. And it all hinges on a few key positions. And if we get a 50-50 break, it's going to be a fantastic game. It's really, I cannot wait for it. 1:45, May 29, Pearse Stadium, Galway and Roscommon, the world watching, the immigrants, the Rossi in Australia with the Puerto Rican girlfriend, the Galway man, and he's singing the Fields of Athenry the night before. He's hoarse. He has great hopes for Galway. If they get over the Connacht final, he's saying, I might be home for the next day. The immigrant is always coming home. And it's magical for whether you're at home or away. But you and I, Keith, we'll be in Pearse Stadium, the greatest place in the world to be, at 1:45 on May 29. Throw it in, ref, and see what happens.
Well said, Paddy Joe. And who knows, the Saw Doctors could be there as well, because they're making a comeback as well. I don't know if you knew that. They're playing in the town hall in Claremorris sometime in June or July, I think. So that will be a big return for them, and we're looking forward to that. And there is talks of them maybe doing some kind of a concert in Tuam. We all know the importance of the Saw Doctors to Tuam, and put Tuam on the map in a lot of ways. If you're abroad, I've often been abroad and people would say, you're from Tuam, and the first thing they'll say is the Saw Doctors.
Yeah.
Jay Fallon, Jay was a great footballer back in the day, probably, and Sean Purcell, the Terrible Twins. Anyone that would know anything about football, they'd always mention those lads. How do you think the game has developed, we'll say, over the years? and where it's at now. How do you see football today now?
I think football is taken to a brand new level. And just before we go on to that, Keith, I always love when I drive around Tuam. I always love when I see the Sean Purcell Road and the Frank Stockwell. Like, I never seen any of them playing, but Sean Purcell got Footballer of the Century. And everyone in Roscommon that talked about football and seen them played, the men's name will live forever. Like, and of course, we had Jeff Allen. Like, what a footballer Jeff Allen was. God, he was an absolute fantastic footballer, Jay, and a lovely man as well. Like, you know, Asher, football is taken to a complete level now. I was often thinking, you know, your average inter-county footballer now, with the level of his fitness and the level of his training, he'd nearly be able to go to the Olympics. And we'd say going back 80 or 90 or 100 years ago. So the fitness level has gone to a complete new level. Like, it's unbelievable. My first All-Ireland was 1966, when you caught it and kicked it, Galway beat Meath and Croke Park. And I was at that match. I was at my first Connacht final was 66.
And would that be around the time of Stockwell and Purcell?
Stockwell and Purcell, Keith, had just they had said goodbye to the Galway scene just very early, a few years earlier now. They finished off. I don't know, did Purcell and Stockwell play into the 60s? I don't remember the 62 Connacht final, but my first match was 63, and I think they were gone by then, but only just gone now.
Yeah.
You know, but the Galway 3 in a row team, John Keenan got the ball. He got a point. Mayo was leading by 2 points, and John Keenan boxed the ball over the bar to bring it back. Then they had a free. Cyril Dunn took the free, and then Cyril Dunn got a line ball, and Galway won by a point. And they went up to play Meath in the All-Ireland, and all the talk was about Meath's half-back line, Pat Red Collier, Bertie Cunningham and Pat Rillans. But your Matty McDonough got a goal very early in the game, and Galway beat Meath very, very early. You know, they had them beaten from a long way out. Jimmy Duggan was only 18. He played in his first All-Ireland. And actually, he was playing on another 18-year-old who was Terry Moore. There was 2 18-year-olds playing in the middle of the field in 1966. Oh. But Pat Red Collier, Bertie Cunningham and Pat Rillans couldn't live with the Galway forward line. Cyril Dunn and Matty and Seamus Laden, I should have tore them apart. Liam Salmon was in the corner, Sean Cleary and John Keenan. There was 3 changes on the 66 team. Colleen McDonough had come in for John Dandlin.
Yeah, Tuam man as well.
Yeah, Colleen came in for John Dandlin, and Jimmy Duggan was midfield with Pat Dandlin. And Liam Salmon came in for, I don't know, was it Christy Terrell? It was Liam Salmon, Sean Cleary and John Keenan was the full forward line. And God, we were very fond of that Galway team. And in fact, in 1966, the All-Ireland minor final was won by Mayo. There was a Seamus O'Dowd from, I don't know, was he Ballina, Stephen Axe. Oh, he was a fantastic minor. I don't think I've ever seen a better minor player ever than Seamus O'Dowd. But he played very little for the seniors, but he won that minor All-Ireland. God, he won it very easy for Mayo. And I remember then Galway won the senior, Mayo won the minor in 66. And the wonderful news, Jimmy McGee came on the radio at 6:45 the following Sunday after the senior final, and his immortal words, Keith, was another All-Ireland trophy on the way to the West. Roscommon had won the under-21 the week after. So in 66 was a great year for Connacht football. We won minor, senior and under-21. Dermot Earley won his All-Ireland medal in 1966. We beat Kildare. We beat them, I think, by a point. And Kildare was the reigning under-21 champions, having won it previously in 65. So 66 was a special year for the West. But more important was Paddy Joe's first All-Ireland, first Connacht final, and I haven't stopped going to them since, Keith.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant, Paddy Joe. And you were talking there about the way the game has evolved over the years, from the 60s right up to the day. I know you mentioned, and I know you hold in great admiration, the modern day players. In particular, you mentioned to me earlier about Shea Walsh, and you mentioned Damien Comer as well as a threat to Roscommon.
Well, I think Shea Walsh is one of the top forwards in Ireland. And do you know what I love about Shea Walsh? And you know what I always like? Remember when John O'Mahony won with Galway in 1968 in particular. I remember, not name dropping now, but I went down to Ballahadreen. He brought down the Sam Maguire, and we went down to Ballahadreen to see Sam, and we were talking to him. And I congratulated him, one, on being the manager of the All Ireland winning team, but two, uh, he was manager of the cleanest team that ever won an All Ireland final. That 1968 Galway All Ireland winning team, they were a complete outfit. As not one of them, they didn't concentrate on the men. Every one of them played the ball. Gee, Michael Donlan,
98, yeah.
98. Michael Donlan he was superb that
He
day.
was unbelievable.
He was. Tomas Mangan, what a footballer. Like they had Jay, like they had Paddy Joyce, like Declan Meehan, like the Meehans, sure they were, Niall Finnegan, they were just a great football team. Now we were very unlucky. We drew with them in Tuam.
Yes.
And
it was a backdoor. Was that the first year of the backdoor, or something happened?
Yeah, twas actually.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. In 98 we drew with them in June.
Yes.
And the replay was down in the High Park on a Saturday evening. Oh God, and Keith, do you know when you go to a football match, I always, like when I had my jersey on, and you're at a football match, I think there's a huge onus on us to have a bit of manners. I really mean this now. I think when you get your match ticket, I think there should be, I know the soccer crowd now, they take the knee for the respect, but when you sit down beside a Galway lad at a match and you have a chat with him and you have a few pleasantries and you can engage in a bit of banter, but if I'm abusive to the ref or abusive to Galway or abusive to my own lads, he's going to judge the 64,000 people in County Roscommon. And that Galway man that never saw Paddy Joe hasn't a clue who I am. But he'll judge 64,000 on my behaviour at the match. So I think there's a huge responsibility on me every time I put this jersey on, not to let it down, to have manners, to show respect, and to show respect to the opposition. And the reason I said that, Keith, is I'll never forget, I was so sorry. One of the things in life you'd be so sorry about? I sat down in the Hyde, we were on the hospital side, and I just sat down beside this lovely Galway man. He was from Dunmore. Oh my God, he was. And he talked low and slow, but what a knowledgeable man on the game. He knew all the Roscommon lads. He knew all, I was amazed that he knew so many of the Roscommon lads. And I remember Tommy Grehan getting injured, and Tommy Grehan went off, and he just leant to me and he said, "That man is a shocking loss to ye. That lad was playing fierce well." And Tommy Grehan came back on again in the game, which was slightly unusual. He went off and he came back on. He wasn't on the field only a couple of minutes, and he hit a great ball over the bar. And he whispered into my ear, he said, "Didn't I tell you he was a good one?" And Keith, I was so sorry I didn't get his number.
Yeah.
Because he was a lovely man to have a chat on football. Oh God, he was. What I often thought about it when I think of Galway winning the All Ireland in '98, all these years later, I immediately think of the lovely man from Dunmore that I sat beside.
Yes.
And
Galway beat them in the replay.
Yeah, Galway beat it, but only just. There were a pint up, so there were, and unfortunately, poor old Derek Thompson dropped the ball, our goalie, and the ball came out, and Michael Donlan toe poked it in. Galway beat us by 4 pints, but Galway had 16 wides that evening and won by 4 pints. And Roscommon we were beaten by 4 pints, but we had 20 wides. We had 4 more wides than Galway, and were beaten before. But there was nothing in that game. Now Galway went on to win the All Ireland, and John O'Mahony and Paddy Joyce, and it was a great win by Galway. Now but that was one of the best games of football that was ever played. And what was unusual about it was a beautiful evening. We drew in Tuam the week earlier, and it was a wet day. And then we came back to the Hyde, and the Hyde was full. And for some unknown reason, the amount of flags, I don't know where all the flags came from, both Galway and Roscommon. But all the flags were up before that magical moment of that 3 or 4 minutes before the two teams emerged from the tunnel. High Park was a massive flags, Galway and Roscommon. And the next thing, then here comes the two teams. This is what the GAA is about. That magical moment when the two teams burst from the tunnels and the flags and the crowd goes mad. White footballs up in the air. This is it. This is raw emotion. This is the GAA. This is what we love. This is the game we love. There's nothing better than it. And let the passion out, let the roar out, and nothing beats that moment when the two teams emerge from the tunnel. And all the flags in the height to meet them that evening. I'll never forget it. And the lovely man from Dunmore sitting beside Paddy Joe.
That was the start as well of a kind of a golden era in Galway. That's the last time that from 98 up until about 2002, I think Galway won 2 All-Irelands in that period, and they got beaten in one of the finals by Kerry in a replay, if I remember.
That's right.
And since then, they haven't really reached those heights. Michael Donlan, you mentioned there, a great player, one of the best I've ever seen. You mentioned some of the great players that you've seen down along the line. Just to get your thoughts, Paddy Joe, moving kind of still sticking with football, but maybe on a separate note about the new competition. The launch of the Tailteann Cup was during the week. Maybe to get you to say a few words about that and what's your thoughts?
Just before I go from that, talking about great footballers, and I am conscious, I am sitting in Tuam. I couldn't leave out one of the greatest footballers I ever seen playing was Burke Joyce himself. I used to be at Mass in the 4 Mile House on the outside of the town of Roscommon, and I'd know that Killereardon were playing in Tuam, and I'd drive up to see him playing club football. He was, to me, the greatest footballer that ever played Gaelic football. I think Burke Joyce, he had 2 or 3 great abilities. He had one great ability. He was for such a very, very good footballer, a very good forward. He was so good at winning his own ball. He was so strong. He could win a free for himself, and he could kick it over the bar. He could go back. He went back into the half-back line in Croke Park when they were playing Kerry, and he brought the ball up. So he did. He was an outstanding footballer, one of the greatest I ever seen. And it would be unfair, and as I sit here in Tuam, and not to mention Burke Joyce, he was on my top 3 list of 3 people to meet. Burke Joyce, and I had met him, but I haven't met him right. I was only talking to him briefly. Now I just thanked him for the memories. I thanked him for what he gave to GAA lovers outside of Galway. I thanked him for what he gave to Paddy Joe, the sheer magic, the beauty. And I loved his ability to take the free. He pined to the ref where the spot was. But where the spot was and where Paddy took it when he played the Rossies, there was a slight variation. But that was the mark of the genius. Yeah. He could do it. Asher, look at every county has great players, but he left a lasting impact on Paddy Joe. Burke Joyce.
Yeah, one of the best. And your thoughts on the Tailteann Cup, Paddy Joe?
I think the Tailteann Cup is a fantastic competition. I just hope that inter-county players buy into it. I think it has married. There's a marriage between holding the provincial finals and there's an outlet in for teams that isn't in the same category as the top teams. Like, something would have to be done. There's absolutely no advantage to anyone going out in a championship match and getting hockeyed by 20 or 25 points. It does nothing for the team that wins. It does nothing for the team that loses. In fact, the fairest way of all is if they could run the championship on the league basis. We have Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 and 4. And there's no one being hockeyed in them games. If you go through like the Division 1, the teams are very even. And certainly 2 is very competitive completely. 3 and 4. And if they could have that model and incorporate that league model into a championship model, I think that'd be the real way to go. Now, I think having the Division 1 and the Division 2 teams on their own and having 3 and 4, that's going to give you a more balanced games. It's going to give you, there's no one going to get a big hammer. Anyone can beat anyone. And that's the way I think it's going to be a fantastic achievement. And what I heard yesterday, Keith, makes it even more interesting. They're going to play the semi-finals live on RTE telly. They're going to play in the final, giving it full national media coverage, which it deserves. And they're also going to pick an all-star team from the Tailteann competition, which is a great incentive, like to every county now. Like, wouldn't it? You know, when you win an All-Ireland medal, it doesn't make a bit of difference who you win it for or where you win it once you have the medal in your back pocket going home. You know, so it's a great incentive and the best to look to it. And I just hope now it's going to take a year or two to get it in, but I think it's going to be a great competition. Have lads playing football at home rather than going all over the world. I'd be very enthusiastic for it and hope it's a huge success.
Yeah, we're hoping here as well. As you know, you mentioned about the flags, and we have a flag business here. You can see we have some of the jerseys up around the place. We're big Mayo supporters, as you can see the Mayo jersey behind me here, and we in Mayo than we could ever imagine. So we love to see Mayo playing. We love to see them coming in the back door or the front door or whatever door. And I know this is about Galway and Roscommon, but you know, Mayo have brought so much to the game in the last 10 years. They've been the most, in my opinion, outside of Dublin, they've been the most consistent team in the championship. So exciting to watch, so unpredictable. Typical Mayo, they'd lose to Galway, they could go out the following week and come back and win a match. But in relation to the Tailteann Cup and the flags, we're hoping that teams will be supported. We're hoping the likes of Cavan or Westmeath or whoever get to the final, that people will get behind it and they'll go to Croke Park and they'll celebrate it the same way that they'd celebrate any success in any county. And we're hoping that we'll make a few pounds, send a few flags as well.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, we have only two national trophies that you can win in Gaelic football at the moment. One is Sam Maguire and the other is the National League final. So there isn't that many national awards given out. And if you won, I'm sure the team that's going to win the Tailteann Cup and the excitement and the presentation in the Hogan stand and the fans on the terraces and the fans going home, I think they're going to embrace it and they'll be very, very happy going home. And I think there'll be an outpouring of emotion when they get home. They're bringing a national trophy home. I think it's going to be a massive success.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. Right, Paddy Joe. We'll wrap up soon. Is there anything else you want to say before you finish up? I know you're 50 years a barber this year as well. A great achievement, another milestone for you. And I know you're well known in the town of Roscommon, and you don't like promoting yourself. I know you said that to me before we started. Anything else you'd like to say about anything before we finish up?
I think we're. I'd just like to say just a couple of things, Keith. One is about flags and identity and jerseys. Now, and I know it can be slightly controversial in some areas, but I absolutely love flags. I have 5 flagpoles outside my own home. I did live in the 4 Mile House for most of my life, and now I'm living in a beautiful part of the world. It's beautiful, it's mystical, magical, and romantic down in Ballymote in County Sligo. And I have 5 flags outside Maura's house and our own home. And they're flying proudly. And the reason I have 5, people say, why 5, Paddy Joe? Well, I put them out especially for All Ireland final day. The 2 minor teams, the 2 senior teams, and the tricolour. So I think, Keith, and you didn't prompt me to say this now. I've said this ever before. I was talking to anyone like yourself who sells flags. I had a passion about this. I don't think there should be planning permission given to any private house across Ireland without 2 conditions: that you'd have 2 flagpoles at each gable, have the tricolour and your county flag like they do have in America. I'm just obsessed with flags. I have hundreds and hundreds of flags. I went around the world. I was fortunate enough to have done a nice bit of travelling. And wherever I go, I bring home a bag full of flags. So the flags are fierce important. And I love flags, and I love to see them flying. I love the matches, and I love as you say, when you drive through Mayo, they always were a great county for the flags. They were the number one to put out the flags. And in Roscommon, we'll have the flags out for the Connacht final, and we'll have them out before and hopefully after as well. The one other thing that I love meeting the older people of Ireland. I love the man with the turn-down Wellingtons. I think the man with the turn-down Wellingtons he's my favourite. He's my hero. I just love him. And if he was on the rally bike and the cap on the side of the head and the fag out of the mouth, and if you could get talking to that man is an encyclopedia on life. He's seen and not heard. He doesn't have the confidence to put himself forward, but his knowledge, oh my God, they're so knowledgeable on so many things. And unfortunately, so many people just hasn't the time to stand and talk to them. And the old women with the aprons and the little bootines and the tea towel thrown over her shoulder and standing at the door looking up and looking down. And all they want is someone to talk, someone to stand and say hello to them. But like we're all going at 928 miles an hour. But I'd say, like, if we know any of these people, we're privileged to have them living in our community. They're treasures. We should stand, we should talk to them, and we should record what their knowledge. They have an amazing knowledge of the folklore of the townlands we live in. They know who was related to who. They know who owned that farm before he bought it. And all that knowledge and all that local history is going to die. And we need to nurture those people, and we need to trap that information and hold it and pass it on to another generation. Oh, I love them old Irishmen. They're soft. They talk low and slow. There's no anger in their voice. There's an air of spirituality oozing out of them. There's an air of serenity. There's an air of calmness. The man with the turn-down Wellingtons, oh, he's my hero. I just love him. Oh, I build a statue to him in every town in Ireland. Don't bypass the man with the turn-down Wellingtons. And he's the new millionaire. He has his health. He's out on the bike. He's singing "Go Lassie Go." He didn't buy any apartments in Bulgaria. He's not worried about the stock market. He doesn't give a continental what's going to happen. All he's worrying about is, will Roscommon beat Galway? And he'll stop and say, Paddy, Joe, what do you think? Will we beat them? Have we a chance? And I'd say we have a great chance. And why do you think we have a great chance? Well, I'd say, Mickey, do you know what? We have mighty forwards in Roscommon. Give the ball to Inda. Get Inda to run down the middle, into Donny, back to Keane McKeown, over the bar, put it up umpire, another point for the Rassies, and the goalie never knew. We have great forwards, we're fit, we're fast, we're outsiders, they're not giving us a chance. Mickey, we can win the Connacht final, but don't say it too loud. Give it to Donny, go, turn it, take him on. Yes, another score. That's it. And that man goes home. And that's all he wants to hear. The man with the turn-down Wellingtons, will Roscommon beat Galway? And then he'd say, have we a chance at them at all? Will they give us a horrid beating? And I'd say, no, Mickey, we have a great chance. Hold the head. They're just lovely. I love the man with the turn-down Wellingtons.
Very good, Paddy Joe. Look, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. So glad that we got the chance to record some of our thoughts. This is a starting point for this podcast. It's just something that I said to you earlier. I'm not sure exactly what direction to go in. You were saying maybe I should interview some local people, like you were saying about the older generation, and ask them about what life was like when they were younger, or to give you an insight into the town maybe, and all of that stuff. So look, I appreciate all your thoughts and appreciate the chat. And it's good to see you as always.
Keith, I'm absolutely privileged and delighted to be here with you. And thanks for asking me to have the few words. And I really enjoyed it. And the only suggestion I'd make, Keith, is get the man with the turn-down Wellingtons into it, and he'll blow the whole lot of us away. That's the man we need to hear. And God bless you, Keith, and the best of luck going forward in the future.
Thanks, Paddy Joe. Well done. Good stuff.
Now, in the name of God, how did that turn out?